One of the larger ginseng stores in the capital is the Zhuangguang. One day, a young man tethered his horse outside and wandered in to buy some ginseng. He placed a bag of silver on the counter and took out 100 taels as deposit for some samples of ginseng. He explained himself thus: "My master is extremely fussy about the quality of his ginseng, and if I buy some that he's not happy with, he's sure to punish me. I loathe buying ginseng because I'm always worried about making a mistake. Would it be possible for me to leave this money as a deposit on a range of samples and have one of your more experienced salesmen bring them along to my master's house so that the master can examine it personally?" The storekeeper thought this a reasonable proposition, so he accepted the deposit and instructed an experienced, middle-aged salesman to accompany the young man back to his master's with several pounds of ginseng. Just as the salesman was about to leave, the storekeeper advised him, "Be sure to keep an eye on this ginseng. Don't let anyone else get hold of it." The young man and the salesman traveled out of the city through the Donghua gate, and eventually arrived at the steps of a mansion. The master of the house, a well-groomed man in fur whose hat bore a sapphire, was upstairs and did indeed look extremely ill. Resting against his pillow, he addressed the salesman. "This ginseng you bear, is it of the best quality from the northeast?" The salesman said that it was, whereupon 2 houseboys standing in attendance came forward and took the ginseng to the master for his perusal. He opened the bundle, packet by packet, apparently quite an expert in judging the quality of ginseng. Before he had completed his inspection, a horse-drawn carriage stopped outside. Someone, obviously familiar with the household, entered the hall downstairs, and the master, looking rather anxious, instructed his attendants to inform the new arrival that he was too sick to see visitors. He then lowered his voice and said to the salesman, "This man has come to ask me for a loan. I can't let him up here now. If he sees me buying ginseng, I'll never be able to refuse him." The shouts of the newcomer reverberated up the stairs. "Your master's just pretending to be sick. I'll bet the real reason he won't see me is that he's in bed with some luscious concubine or a young houseboy. Well, I'm going to go upstairs anyway to see for myself." The 2 attendants tried to stop him, and a noisy argument ensued. The master became even more anxious and said to the salesman in a worried whisper, "Quick, hide your ginseng. We must not let this rascal get even the slightest glimpse of it. There's a bamboo box at the foot of the bed. That should be a safe place for it." The salesman was handed a copper padlock and key with which to lock the ginseng in the box. "You stay here, sit on the box, and guard the ginseng. I'll go down and try to stop him." The master staggered off down the hall and greeted the newcomer. Their relationship seemed to be fairly amicable, since there was a lot of good-humored bantering. The guest, though, persisted in his request to be allowed upstairs. The master, however, continued to refuse. This point of disagreement led to a huge argument. The guest said in anger, "You're worried that if I go upstairs I'll see all your money. You don't want to lend me any, do you? Well, I'm not to be treated so callously. I'll never bother you again. Goodbye." The master pleaded for forgiveness and followed the guest out of the house to see him off. The attendants also appeared to have gone, since the house had fallen instantly silent. The silence continued for quite some time while the salesman sat on the box waiting patiently for someone to return. After a long while, the salesman's suspicions were aroused. He unlocked the box to take the ginseng back to the store, but to his surprise, it had disappeared. He then discovered that the box he was sitting on had a false base. What he had assumed to be the bottom of the box was in fact the floor, whose boards opened like a trapdoor into the room below. The noise of the argument had obviously muffled the noise of the floorboards opening, so the salesman hadn't noticed the theft of the ginseng he had been guarding so carefully.